Hello, students. Welcome to today's lecture of redox reactions, that is, theory part 3. So, in today's lecture, we are going to study the NCERT section 7.3.1. So, this is the disclaimer in front of you. Now, the learning objective after attending this lecture, you will be able to classify the redox reactions into combination, decomposition, displacement, and disproportion reactions. That means after attending this lecture, you will be able to know about the combination, decomposition, displacement, and disproportion reactions in detail. So these reactions are the basic type of redox reactions in which the changes are taking place in the oxidation states and etc. We will also able to understand a comparative order among various reductants and oxidants. That means we will be able to differentiate between a stronger reducing agent and then a weaker reducing agent. We will also be able to know about a stronger oxidizing agent and a weaker oxidizing agent. That means a comparative order in between the reactants and oxidants. So the topics that we are going to cover in this lecture according to NCERT, so these do all belongs to the section 7.3.1 in which we study the different types of redox reaction. The first one is combination reactions, then decomposition, then displacement reactions, and then the disproportion one. We'll also solve two NCERT examples that are 7.5. We will be solving three NCERT examples that are 7.5, 7.6 and 7.7. And then we'll have a conclude to the lecture that we have studied in today's class. So now the combination reactions. So the first type of the redox reaction is the combination reaction. So what does the combination reaction mean? As the word itself suggests that the combination, that means there must be the reactants which are combining. But in general, in all the chemical reactions, the reactants do compound and they form, the reactions do combine and then they form a final product. But in the combination reaction, it is important to note that the two or more substances combine to form a single compound. That means a single compound, or we can say that a final a final product will be a single compound. So now, if we understand this combination reaction in terms of electrons, then we can say that when elements combine to form a compound, one element gains the electron while the other one loses. That means, as I have already said that two or more compounds, that means two or more substances do combine in the reaction and then they form a final single product. So among the reactant, one would lose the electron, then the other could gain it. So this electron transfer makes the combination reaction as a redox reaction. Hence we can say that in combination reaction, one element gains the electron while the other one loses the electron, and thus this electron transfer makes it a redox reaction. So if we took a general equation or a general denotation for combination reaction, so this would be x plus y giving xy, in which x and y or x and y both must be in the elemental form for such a reaction to be a redox reaction. So this is very important point, that these must be in the elemental form, and then only this reaction, that means the combination reaction, can be considered as the redox reaction. So now the example for the combination reaction, in which you can see that the carbon plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide, which is NCERT equation 7.24. So here the carbon and oxygen are combining and then they are forming the carbon dioxide. Here you can clearly see that the carbon and oxygen in the reactant are present in their elemental form, and hence the oxidation state also changes. Like if you consider the oxidation state of carbon, you will find that the carbon has an oxidation state of 0, while in the product it has +4. In the reactant, O2 has 0 oxidation state, while in the product it has -2. So, there is also a point that means general electron transfer in combination reaction. We can also consider that all the combination reactions which makes the use of elemental dioxygen, as in this reaction also you can see there is elemental dioxygen. So all combination reactions which make the use of elemental dioxygen as well as other reactions involving elements other than dioxygens are redox reactions. In the second example, you can clearly see that magnesium is combining with nitrogen forming Mg3N2, that is magnesium nitride. So here if you look at the oxidation state, you will find that both the magnesium and nitrogen are present in their elemental state in the reactant with the oxidation number of 0. When they do combine and form a product which is a single compound, you will find that the magnesium has changed its oxidation state from 0 to +2, while nitrogen has changed its oxidation state from 0 to -3. That means one has lost the electron while the other one has gained it. And this losing and gaining of electron would make a chemical reaction as a redox reaction. So this is the NCERT equation 7.25. Now here is a most important point, that is not all the chemical reactions are the redox reactions. That means wherever you see the combination reactions, you cannot say that all the reactions are redox reactions. Why is this so? Why we are saying this? This is because here you can see the example. Like here calcium oxide plus water gives calcium hydroxide. So here you have two opinions here. That means we have two statements here. The first one that I have already stated, that if we want a combination reaction to be a redox reaction, I have already stated a most important point, that the substances which are reacting, that means which are the reactant, should be in their elemental state. If they are not present in their elemental state, then that combination reaction would never be considered as a redox reaction. So in this one also, the reactants are not in elemental state. While in the second one also, you will find that calcium is existing in +2 oxidation state in the reactant, while in the product it is existing in +2. Oxygen is existing in -2, again it is existing in -2, and same with the hydrogen. As there is no electron transfer, and hence this reaction would not be considered as a redox one. Hence, not all combination reactions would be the redox reactions. So I hope the combination reactions are clear to you. That how can we say that combination reactions would be the redox one. Moving ahead to the next type of the reaction, which is decomposition reaction. So what are decomposition reactions? The single compound breaks down into two or more simpler substances. So by this line, we are having an idea like that decomposition reactions are the opposite of combination reactions. These are the opposite of combination reactions. So precisely, we can say that the decomposition reaction leads to the breakdown of a compound into two or more components. At least one of the component must be in the elemental state. So what I have stated, that if we look at the general equation, you will find that the single compound, that is xy, has broken down into x and y, which are in the elemental form. So as I have already stated, that the decomposition reaction leads to the breakdown of a compound, and now it do break down into two or more simpler substances. But in these simpler substances, or in the product, you will find that at least one of this will be in the elemental form. Now, if we consider that how are these decomposition reaction proceed, that what happened or which type of energy is provided to them so that they converted or gets breakdown. So to break down any substance, the decomposition reaction do requires energy, and that energy is in the form of heat, light or electricity. That would be heat, light or electricity. And on the basis of these energy providing, their decomposition reaction can further be studied as the thermal decomposition one, or the photo decomposition, in which the thermal stands for heat, the light stands for, the photo stands for the light. Now, example 1 is decomposition of water. So if we look at the reaction, so here water is break down into H2 plus O2. So in water, that is H2 plus O2, you will find that H2 in reactant is existing in +2 oxidation state, while in the product it is existing in 0 oxidation state. Same with the oxygen. Oxygen is existing in -2 oxidation state in the reactant, and in the product it is present in 0. So H2 on being electrolyzed gives H2 plus O2, and this is NCERT equation 7.26. There is most important point that not all the decomposition reactions are redox reactions. How can we conclude it? Like if you consider the example of calcium carbonate, you will find that calcium carbonate is decomposed into two substances, two compounds, that is calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. As again here, the two statements, the first one is that one of the product would be existing in elemental form, but here both are present as the compound. So the first rule is proven wrong over here. While in the second one, if you consider the oxidation state, you will find that the calcium and oxygen and carbon, all these three have the same oxidation state as they had in the reactant. That means there is no change in the oxidation number of carbon, calcium and oxygen. Therefore, there is no electron transfer, hence this cannot be considered as a redox one. So I hope you have a clear idea about the decomposition reaction. Now, the decomposition reactions, example 2. So there are two more examples, and in the example 2, it is decomposition of sodium hydride. So what happens? If we look at the reaction of sodium hydride, you will find that the sodium is existing in +1 oxidation state in reactant, while in product it has 0. Again, in the reactant, the hydrogen has -1 oxidation state, while in the product it has 0. That means here that there is change in oxidation number, which means that the electron transfer has taken place. This is NCERT equation 7.27. While in the third example, which is the last example of decomposition reaction, that is decomposition of potassium chloride. So in this, the potassium chlorate is decomposed into or broken down into two simpler substances. The first one is the potassium chloride, while the second one is oxygen. So here you can clearly see that one of the product that is formed during the decomposition of potassium chlorate is O2, which means that there is one compound existing in elemental form. Here you will also find that the oxidation number do change. That if you look at the chlorine, in the reactant it is existing in +5, while in the product it is existing in -1. Hence, there is change in oxidation number, which means there is electron transfer that is taking place. Hence, both these examples can be considered as the decomposition reactions, or we can say that as a decomposition redox reactions. There is a note over here that if you look over the sodium hydride and potassium chlorate decomposition reaction, you will consider them as an example of intramolecular redox reaction. How will you consider them? You will consider them as the intramolecular redox reaction. So now what are intramolecular redox reactions? What do you understand by it? So intramolecular redox reactions are the reactions in which the oxidation and reduction happen within one molecule. In which this happen within one molecule. So if you look over the example in which sodium hydride and potassium chlorate are taken, you will find that there is only one molecule present. That means the oxidation reduction is happening in a single molecule, that is NaH and KClO3. So we can conclude that an intramolecular redox reaction is a chemical reaction in which a single molecule undergoes both the oxidation and reduction internally, meaning one part of the molecule is oxidized while another part is reduced. This process involves a transfer of electrons within the molecule, leading to a change in the oxidation state, of different atoms or groups. So this is all about intramolecular redox reaction. I hope this is clear to you. Now moving on to the next type of the redox reaction, that is displacement reaction. So in displacement reaction, an ion or atom in a compound is replaced by an atom or by an ion of another element. So now we have studied a general term over here, like there is replacement being taken place by an element. That means an element is taking the position of another element. So you can understand it by the general equation, like here X and YZ are the two reactants which are combining and forming the products XZ and Y. So here you will find that X has taken place of the Y. So now one question arises, like how is it happening that why is X replacing Y? Why is X replacing Y? So now what happens, like if you consider that X and Y, so they must be having a different oxidation or reduction potential, which is why there is replacement taking place, which is why the displacement is taking place. So now let's understand this with the help of example and the theory behind this displacement or this replacement happening. So now here is an example in which the magnesium is being reacted with TiCl4 and the compound formed is MgCl2 plus Ti. The compound formed is MgCl2 plus Ti. So how does this happen, or what is happening? So here you will find that magnesium is existing in zero oxidation state, while in TiCl4 it is existing in Ti is existing in +4 and chlorine is -1. While in the product you will find that MgCl2, Mg is in +2 and chlorine is in -1 and Ti is in 0. Now, here you can clearly see that magnesium has taken place of the Ti. That means the displacement has done. So why is this so? So this is based directly on the oxidizing and reducing power of a particular species. So we can say that a more reactive element will always displace the less reactive element in the compound. And this exchange of elements, that like here you can see that Ti has been replaced by magnesium. So this exchange of element involves a transfer of electron, which is the defining characteristic of a redox reaction. So now we can conclude in the terms of electron transfer reaction that the more reactive element loses electrons, that means oxidation, while the less reactive element gains the electron, that is reduction. So now there are two types of displacement reaction, as I have stated that the more reactive would displace the less reactive. So to consider this line in detail and understand the displacement reaction, we have divided the displacement reaction into two types, because there are two types of elements that we have, that one is the metal while the other one is the non-metal. So in the first one, we will study about the metal displacement redox reactions, and the other one is non-metal displacement redox reactions. So let's understand these two types of displacement reaction one by one. Metal displacement reaction. So in metal displacement reaction, a metal is a compound can be displaced by another metal in the uncombined state. As we have already discussed that there are many reactions, as we have already discussed much reactions about the metal displacement, but that at that time you didn't know about this term. Okay, so now we will again consider those examples and understand about the metal displacement reaction. So what happens in this reaction? So the more reactive metal would displace a less reactive metal from its solution. I hope if you remember that three different examples that we studied in the previous lecture, in which we studied about the redox reaction between the zinc and aqueous sulfate of copper nitrate. The another example in which we studied about the redox reaction between the copper and aqueous solution of silver nitrate. So in that case, I have explained it to you that the more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal, which is based on the electrochemical series that I am going to explain you ahead. So if we consider the reactivity, that which metal is more reactive, so the reactivity is determined by the electrochemical series. So here is the electrochemical series. But one most important point I would like to mention here, that here you can see the clear elements written over here in a decreasing order. But how we have made this order? This order has been made on the basis of standard reduction potential. So, and with these standard reduction potential values, they are aligned in this manner only. So you will study about this reduction potential in the upcoming classes or in the highest standard. So on this basis of this series, you will find that fluorine is more reactive than chlorine, then mercury, then iron, copper, lead, then zinc, aluminium, and so on. So if you look at some example, that zinc displacing the copper. If you consider the reaction, that is NCERT equation 7.29, you will find that zinc on reaction with copper sulfate, the product formed are zinc sulfate plus copper. That means zinc that was present in zero oxidation state in the reactant is now converted into +2 oxidation state, while the copper has also from +2 to 0, while sulfur has the same oxidation state +6 and oxygen has -2. So what has happened over here? Zinc has taken place of the copper. And why is it so? Zinc has replaced copper because zinc is more reactive than copper. And it has more negative reduction potential, and hence the displacement reaction will take place. Like if we consider the opposite reaction that we have studied now. That means if we are provided with copper and then the solution of zinc sulfate. So what will happen? Will the reaction take place? There is a question for you, that if we consider the reaction between zinc sulfate and copper, so will the reaction takes place, or if the reaction would take place, then what would be the product? So the reaction will not take place. Why? Because as I have already told you, that if you look at the chemical series, the electrochemical series, you will find that the copper first come and then the zinc. That means copper has the tendency to zinc has the more tendency. Okay, so this is all about the metal displacement reaction. So now the another example is calcium displacing vanadium. So here you will find that the reaction in between V2O5 plus 5Ca gives 2V plus 5 calcium oxide. So what happens, that in this reaction you will find that the vanadium is existing in plus 5 and calcium in 0, and then the calcium in plus 2 while the oxygen is in minus 2. Again, the calcium is more reactive than vanadium, and hence as it has more negative reduction potential, and hence the displacement reaction would take place. Reducing metal is a better reducing agent than the one that is being reduced, which evidently shows more capability to lose electrons as compared to the one that is reduced. So, what as we have already studied two examples, so in each case you can find that a reducing metal is a better reducing agent than the one that is being reduced. So what does this show? This evidently shows the more capability to lose electrons as compared to the one that is reduced. So this all is mean by reducing metal. So I hope this is clear to you. Now the second type is non-metal displacement redox reaction. So the non-metal displacement redox reaction. So if we consider them, we will find that in this type of reaction, mainly you will find that the displacement of hydrogen and halogen would take place. So now let's understand the non-metal displacement reaction one by one. So first of all, the alkali metal and some alkaline earth metals like calcium and etc. displaces the hydrogen from cold water. Displaces the hydrogen from cold water. So we can understand this by the help of example. And if we consider the non-metal displacement reaction, we will say that these includes the hydrogen displacement and a rarely occurring reaction which involves the oxygen displacement also. Okay. So as if we consider the alkali and some alkaline earth metals, so what are these? These are generally good reductants. These are generally good reductants, and hence what will they do? They will easily displace the hydrogen from the cold water. Okay, so because they has strong reducing power. So now in the example NCERT equation 7.33, sodium, that is Na, reacting with water gives sodium hydroxide plus water. So here sodium is existing in 0, the hydrogen has plus 1, oxygen has minus 2. While in the product you will find that sodium has plus 1, oxygen minus 2 and hydrogen plus 1. That means the alkaline metal has displaced the hydrogen from the cold water. While in the second example, calcium reacting with water forming calcium hydroxide gives H2. So calcium existing in 0 oxidation state and hydrogen in plus 1 and oxygen in minus 2 in the reactant. In the product, the calcium is existing in plus 2, oxygen in minus 2, hydrogen in plus 1. That means there has electron transfer taken place over there, in which the alkali metal has displaced the hydrogen from cold water. So these are the NCERT equations 7.33 and 7.34. Non-metal displacement reaction. The less reactive metal displaces hydrogen from steam. That means if we consider the less active metals such as magnesium and iron reacting with steam, so what would they do? The hydrogen gas will get produced in this reaction. So now, why has the less active metal displaced hydrogen? This is because the less active metals can easily lose the electrons and then can get oxidized. So, if we consider the example in which magnesium is reacting with water, that means steam, you will find that the formation of magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen gas has taken place. The magnesium is existing in zero oxidation state and in product it has +2, while the oxidation number of hydrogen has changed from +1 to 0. Now iron. The iron has an oxidation state of 0 in reactant and in product it has +3. So in the next example, that is NCERT equation 7.36, the Fe, that means iron, is reacting with steam to form Fe2O3 plus H2. So these reactions that are 7.37, 7.35, 7.36, and in these are generally used to prepare hydrogen gas in the laboratory also. That means these two reactions are the general reactions to produce hydrogen gas in the laboratory. So in these reactions, you can also see that the less active metals do not readily react under normal conditions. That this reaction generally do not take place in the normal conditions. Here also, the reactivity of metal is reflected as the rate of hydrogen gas evolution. So now let's study this, that how is this hydrogen gas evolution can determine the rate of the reaction, or how is the removal of hydrogen gas is directed by the rate of reaction. So in non-metal displacement redox reaction, the less active metal displaces hydrogen from acids. So here you will find that the zinc reacting with HCl gives ZnCl2 plus H2. So the less active metal has displaced the hydrogen from acid directly, which is NCERT equation 7.37. If we consider the example of magnesium reacting with HCl, you will find that the formation of magnesium chloride has taken place with the release of hydrogen gas. And the reaction of iron with HCl, that means again the formation of FeCl2 plus H2. In all these three equations, that is 7.37 to 7.39, in these reactions, the hydrogen gas is produced. So, these are the main reactions that are used to produce the hydrogen gas in laboratory. Okay? So, the conclusion, that the reactive metals like magnesium, they produce the hydrogen gas more quickly, while the less reactive metal like the iron, they release hydrogen more slowly. And also, the noble metals like Ag and Au do not react with HCl. Hence, we can state it in a manner that the reactivity of metals is reflected in the rate of hydrogen gas evolution, which is the slowest for the less active metal, that is Fe, and fastest for the most reactive metal like magnesium. Very less active metals which may occur in the native state, such as silver, that is Au, and gold, that is Ag, and gold, that is Au, they do not react even with the HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. I hope the non-metal displacement redox reaction is clear to you. Now, the fourth case for the non-matter displacement reaction is the displacement reaction of halogen. The displacement reactions of halogen. So here, the more reactive halogen can displace the less reactive halogen because of the different electron affinities. Because of the different electron affinities. So if we consider the activity series of halogen, so it is fluorine, then chlorine, then bromine, and then iodine. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. So this is fluorine is the most reactive, then chlorine, and then the rest. As fluorine has the high reactivity, so this allowed it to replace chloride, bromide, and iodide ions, while fluorine is so reactive that it can even attack water and displaces the oxygen of water. This implies that if by the activity series, as the fluorine is most reactive, so we can conclude that it can replace the chloride, bromide, iodide ions from the solution and also can attack water and displaces the oxygen of water. So here is the reaction in which the fluorine is reacting with water and displacing the oxygen of water. So the formation of HF, that is hydrogen fluoride, take place with the release of oxygen gas. So now you can see that water is liquid while the fluorine is gas, and if you consider the displacement reactions of chlorine, bromine and iodine using fluorine are not generally carried out in the aqueous solution. So by the reaction, that is H2O plus F2 forming HF and O2, we can conclude that, or it is for this reason only, that the displacement reaction of chlorine, bromine and iodine using fluorine are not generally carried out in the aqueous solution. While if we look more into the displacement reaction of halogens, you will find that the chlorine can displace bromide and iodide ions in an aqueous solution. This can be understood with the help of some example. So in the first example, you will find that the chlorine reacting with potassium bromide forming potassium chloride plus Br2. So here the chlorine is reacting with KBr forming KCl plus Br2. And in the next one, you will find that chlorine is reacting with potassium iodide forming potassium chloride and iodide. In these NCERT equations 7.41 and 7.42, you will find that the chlorine is existing in the elemental state in the reactant. While in the product, when they do react with KBr and Ki, they've converted into KCl with the Br2 and I2, which again exist in the elemental form. So in these reactions, you will find that bromine and iodide would be colored. Like if you consider the color of bromide and iodide, they would be differently colored like brown and purple, that I will be explaining in the upcoming slide. Like as Br and iodine are colored, as I have told you, like the bromine and iodine are colored. So what would happen? They can easily dissolve in carbon tetrachloride, that is CCl4, and can easily be identified from the color of the solution by the layer test. Like this line has written over here. Like if we have taken two solutions and in both the solutions we have passed or we have reacted the solution with chlorine, how can we find out that which one is the solution of KBr and which one is the Ki? This can only be differentiated on the basis of the bromine and iodine, because they do show the different color in the solution. So the test by which we can get to their color is the layer test. Which one is that? This is the layer test. So now consider, or let's understand about the layer test. So in the layer test, what happened? It is generally help us to detect and distinguish between the bromide and iodide ions in the solution. The required reagents are chlorine water, carbon tetrachloride, that is CCl4, test solution that contain bromide and iodine ions like KBr and Ki. And then these all the required reagents. So how would the reaction take place, or how would the test continue? So if we take the test solution in a test tube, then just we add a few drops of chlorine water which we prepare freshly, and add 2 to 3 ml of CCl4, that is carbon tetrachloride, and observe the color change, because the color will be changed and that can be observed as a layer, as the bottom layer in the CCl4 solution. You will find that the bromide ion would form a brown color layer in the CCl4 solution, or while the iodide would form a violet layer in the a violet color layer in the CCl4 layer. Now the chemical reactions, that how would the reaction has taken place? The chloride has reacted with bromine, forming 2Cl plus Br2, that would be of brown color, while the Cl2 has reacted with iodine, forming Cl and I2, that would be of violet color. So this brown and violet color can easily be seen as a brown colored and violet colored layer and can be easily distinguished. Now moving ahead to the halogen recovery reaction. That means, like, if we consider the halogen recovery from halides, so this can be done only through the help of oxidation. So here, if we consider the oxidation of halide, that means the halide ion, that is X negative, would form X2 plus 2 electron, that is NCERT equation 7.44. So we can say that halogen displacement reactions have a direct industrial application, and the recovery of halogens from their halides requires an oxidation process that can be represented as the NCERT equation 7.44. Now here the X is a halogen element, whereas it can be chlorine, bromine and iodide. So example, the chlorine would give Cl2 plus 2 electron, and there is an important exception, that is of fluorine. That means the fluorine ion can never be converted to F2. Why is it so? Because the fluorine has high electronegativity and strong oxidizing nature. So because fluorine is the strongest oxidizing agent, there is no way to convert F negative ions to F2 by the chemical means. The only way to achieve F2 from F negative is to oxidize electrolytically, and that we will understand in the higher studies. So I hope the halogen recovery reactions are also clear to you. Now the disproponation reaction, that is the last type of redox reaction. So these are the special type of redox reaction. So in the disproponation redox reaction, an element in one oxidation state is simultaneously oxidized and reduced. There is one condition, that element should exist in at least 3 different oxidation states. So how we can say that one of the reacting species in the disproponation reaction always contain an element that can exist in at least 3 different oxidation states, and the element in the form of reacting substance is in the intermediate oxidation state, and both higher and lower oxidation state of the element are formed in the reaction. So now let's consider the example, like the example of hydrogen peroxide. So here you will see that the oxygen is experiencing the disproportionation. So what is happening? The oxygen is in -1 oxidation state in the reactant, while in the product it has both -2 and 0. 0 oxidation state is in its elemental state, while in the compound it has -2. So here the oxygen of peroxide, which is present in -1 state, is converted to 0 oxidation state in O2 and decreases to -2 oxidation state in water. So oxygen from -1 to 0 and then reduce from -1 to -2. Hence, we can conclude that the oxygen is undergoing both the oxidation and redox reaction simultaneously, making it a disproportion reaction. Hence, the three different oxidation states that are shown by oxygen are -1, 0 and -2. So some more examples of disproportion reaction. So here you will find the reaction of phosphorus in the alkaline medium. So here the phosphorus is reacting with 3OH negative with 3H2O gives pH3 plus 3H2PO2 negative. So you will find that the phosphorus is in 0 elemental state, while in the product it is in -3. Oxygen is in -2 and in the reactor it is in -2, while in the product it is also in -2. While if you look at the phosphorus only, you will find that it is in -3 and +1 oxidation state in the product. So phosphorus is getting oxidized from 0 in P4 to +1 in H2PO2 and reduced from 0 in P4 to -3 in PH3. So the conclusion is that phosphorus undergoes simultaneous oxidation and reduction, making it a disproportion reaction. Also, phosphorus shows three different oxidation states: 0, +1 and -3. So now the problem, that is problem 7.5 of NCERT, that which of the following species do not show disproportion reaction and why? So the species are ClO negative, ClO2 negative, ClO3 negative and ClO4 negative. You have to also write the reaction for each of the species that disproportionates. To solve this question, you are provided with some time, and after that, I shall provide you the correct explanation and answer to this question. Now let's look at the solution. So here the solution, that the species with intermediate oxidation state can disproportionate because it can both oxidized and reduced, while the species that have maximum or minimum oxidation state usually do not get disproportionate. So if we consider the first species, that is hypochlorite ion, ClO negative, you will find that it decomposes into Cl negative and ClO3 negative. You will find that the chlorine is reduced from +1 to -1 in Cl negative. That means it is existing in +1 in ClO negative and -1 in Cl negative in the product, and oxidized from +1 to +5 in ClO3 negative. So thus ClO negative show disproportion reaction. While in the next one, that is ClO2 negative chlorite ion, the reaction is 6 ClO2 negative gives 4 ClO3 negative plus 2 Cl negative. So in this reaction, the chlorine is reduced from +3 to -1 and oxidized from +3 to +3 to +5. So again, the ClO2 negative show disproportionation reaction. In the next, that is third one, ClO3 negative, that is chlorate ion. So if we look at the reaction, 4ClO3 negative gives Cl negative plus 3ClO4 negative. Again, in this case also, the chlorine is reduced from +5 to -1 and oxidized from +5 to +7. Thus, it can show disproportionation reaction. While in the next one, for perchlorate ion, no disproportionation reaction because chlorine is in highest oxidation state, that is +7. While now concluding, we can say that ClO negative, Cl is existing in +1, ClO2 negative, chlorine is in +3, and in ClO3 negative, Cl is in +5. They have intermediate oxidation states, and hence ClO4 negative, that is Cl is in +7, has the highest oxidation state, so it typically does not disproportionate. So what we have concluded here? We have concluded that among all the 4 species that are provided in the question, there is only one species, that is ClO4 negative, that is perchlorate ion, which does not disproportionate. Now let's move on to the another question, that is problem 7.6. So in this question, you are provided with 4 reactions in which you have to suggest a scheme of classification of the redox reactions. Here are 4 redox reactions that are provided to you. You have to tell that which one would be the combination reaction or displacement one or the disproportionation one, and etc. So to solve this question, you are provided with some time over here. And after this particular time, I shall provide you the correct answer and its detailed explanation. So now let's look at its correct explanation in detail. The correct answer for first, second, third and fourth would be, in the first reaction, you will look at the reaction, that is N2 plus O2 gives 2NO. So here we can clearly look at the reaction and see that the 2 reactants are present in the reaction, and these 2 reactants both exist in the elemental form, while in the product there is only one compound that is formed. Hence, these all points are indicating towards the combination reaction. Therefore, what we can say here, that nitrogen and oxygen do combine to form nitric oxide, making it a combination reaction. If we consider the second reaction, in which lead nitrate is broken down into lead oxide, then nitrogen dioxide and then oxygen. So here if you consider, there is only one reactant that is present in the chemical reaction, and this particular chemical reaction do have 3 different products. Hence, we can consider this to be Which type of reaction? So this particular reaction in which lead nitrate breaks down into three different compounds, hence it would be considered as a decomposition redox reaction. Therefore, the first one is the combination reaction while the second one is the decomposition reaction. Now, moving on to the third reaction. In the third reaction, you can look here that sodium hydride is reacting with water, forming sodium hydroxide plus H2. Now, sodium hydride is an ionic compound, that means it would be Na plus H negative. So, H negative combines with H positive from water to form hydrogen gas, while the Na positive ions that combine with the OH negative ions and form the sodium hydroxide. So, here what is happening? So, here the displacement reaction is happening because H negative from NaH displaces the H positive from water. Therefore, this reaction would be considered as a displacement redox reaction. Now, in the fourth equation, it is nitrogen dioxide reacting in basic medium or alkaline medium, forming NO2 negative plus NO3 negative plus water. So, in this reaction, you will find that nitrogen dioxide, that is NO2, is undergoing disproportionation reaction to form NO2 negative and NO3 negative. How can we say that it is disproportionating? Because if we find out the oxidation state of nitrogen in the reactant, so it is +4. While if you consider in the product, there is nitrogen present in the compound NO2 negative and NO3 negative. You will find that nitrogen on going from NO2 to NO2 negative, from the reactant to product, the oxidation state is being changed from +4 to +3, while if you is reduced from +4 to +3. While if you consider NO3 negative, then the nitrogen which is existing in +4 in NO2, it is getting oxidized to +5 in NO3 negative, thus making it a disproportionation reaction. Moving ahead to the next question, that is NCERT question 7.7. In this, you can clearly see here that you are provided with two different reactions for Pb3O4. In the one reaction, first one, Pb3O4 is reacting with HCl, while in the second one, it is reacting with nitric acid, forming different products. You have to tell that why is the following reaction proceeding differently in both the reaction. So to solve this question, you are provided with some time over here, and after that particular time, I shall provide you the correct answer to this question. So now let's look at the explanation. So in this question, the reaction is given for Pb3O4. We know that Pb3O4 is a mixture of PbO and PbO2. So now, if we look at the lead, so lead exists in two different oxidation states in both of these compounds, that is PbO and PbO2. So if look at the oxidation state, lead is existing in +2 oxidation state in PbO, while in +4 in PbO2. So if we consider the reaction of Pb3O4, so Pb3O4 will react with HCl and then it will show two distinct reactions. So the first one is the reaction in between acid and base, that is acid-base reaction. So here if you look at the reaction, the lead oxide is being reacted with HCl that forms PbCl2 plus water. And on balancing this equation, we get 2 PbO plus 4 HCl plus 2 PbCl2 plus 2 H2O. While the PbO, which is a basic oxide, that means a metallic oxide, is reacting with an acid, that is HCl, and it forms the salt, that is PbCl2 and water. So this is the acid-base reaction in between PbO and HCl. Now, if we consider again the redox reaction of PbO2, so what will happen here? The PbO2 with 4 HCl react with PbCl2 plus Cl2 gives 2 H2O. Here the lead dioxide is acting as a strong oxidizing agent, and if it is acting as a strong oxidizing agent, that means it is itself getting reduced. Hence, it will convert Cl negative, that is from HCl, into the chlorine gas, that is Cl2. While here HCl is acting, or we can say that HCl is being oxidized to Cl2 gas. And the lead ions, that is Pb4 positive, is reduced to Pb2 positive, while the chloride ions gain these particular electrons. And now, if we consider the Pb3O4 reacting with nitric acid, again we will consider the reaction of PbO and PbO2 with the nitric acid and show how will it proceed with the nitric acid reagent. So first of all, we consider the acid-base reaction. Lead oxide reacting with nitric acid gives PbNO3 whole twice plus water. So we can say that it produces lead nitrate and water. While if we consider the redox reaction in which the PbO2 will react. So now if we consider the reaction of PbO2. So if we consider the reaction of PbO2 plus HNO3, so the reaction will not take place. The PbO2 will remain unreactive. Why is it happening? Because as in the previous reaction also, I have mentioned that HNO3 is itself a strong oxidizing agent. That means it is a strong acid. While all the species are already in their highest oxidation state, that means now again here PbO2 cannot act as a strong oxidizing agent. Therefore, what will happen? The reaction in between these two, that is PbO2 and HNO3, will not take place, because if we consider PbO2 in this particular compound, the lead is already present in its +4 oxidation state. Hence, it cannot be oxidized to higher oxidation state. As a result, the PbO2 will remain unreactive in the presence of nitric acid. PbO2 will remain unreactive in the presence of nitric acid. So this is all about the reaction in between the HCl and nitric acid with Pb3O4. Now, let's conclude this. That the different behavior of the given two reaction with acid occurs because the HCl can be oxidized by PbO2, while HNO3 being an oxidizer, it cannot be further oxidized by PbO2. Therefore, the passive nature of PbO2 against HNO3 explains why this reaction differs from the one involving HCl, where PbO2 readily reacts. I hope this question is clear to you. Now, let's conclude the today's lecture. So the summary is that we have studied the 4 different types of redox reaction, that is the combination reaction, decomposition reaction, displacement and disproportionation one. The displacement reaction is a very important reaction in which we have studied about the electrochemical series, and it depends directly or it states directly that the more reactive element will replace the less reactive one according to the chemical series. And we have also studied the layer test, which is used to differentiate in between the halide ions through their color property. And also, if we consider the disproportionation reaction, so it only occurs when an element is in intermediate oxidation state, simultaneously oxidizes and reduces itself. So I hope all these points are clear to you. So now with this I end my lecture here. Hope you have understood each and every topic till now. Thank you so much everyone.